So it is the best job I've ever had. You know, I used to like castrate 300 piglets a day. I used to
now
like,
that sounds like fun.
I worked fast food. I worked at like the most violent bar in Western Canada. I've had all sorts of really crappy jobs. So it's the best job I've ever had, but it's still like, you know, plus like not being good at it is like hard for me. Because it's not really the thing I want to. It's not my biggest passion in the world, right? I really want to create and be creative. I don't want to, and that's like my number one passion, you know, as far as like vocation goes. And man, I mean, the days that are hardest is when I get a great idea, and then I go to work the next day. Those are hard days.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Man, you know when you ever have a thought and you're like, am I the only one that thinks this? And somebody says it out loud and you're like, thank you, God, for this person over here for like helping me realize that I'm not alone in this.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Work and sleep are the two things that suffer when you have a great idea and you don't want to be doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I remember the night I came up with the idea for this film we ended up making, that's just so fun. Like you get this idea in your head and you're like, huh. And then now I'm looking at a screen and editing it together and like, and I'm like looking at people that are like saying the words that I wrote down when I had this idea, you know, like a year before. But I remember when I got that idea and I thought this is such a good idea. And this also has like potential for success, I think, you know, I mean, everything's a crapshoot these days, but it has some potential for success. And then like having to go to like work the next day and there's just like, you know, and I was, you know, and I had like some really tough kids that were like just really intense.
Yeah.
You know, and I say that because that was when I was teaching kindergarten and there's like there's a bunch of kids that are like really intense. Like I'm not going to go into it, obviously, but
it's not what you wanted to be doing at that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, and though I say they're intense, I never let them know.
Yeah, no.
So in their mind, they're like, this guy's great, and he accepts me for who I am. But on the inside, I'm like, I can't handle this kid. Yeah. You know. But you know, you can't let them in on that because they'll internalize it and then you're that because that's the thing. Everyone has like that thing that their teacher said to them that changed your life for the better, and everyone has that stuff that the teacher said to them that just like stays in their mind forever negatively. I
have teachers that I still think about, like, and I know you and your wife are actually some of my favorite people in the whole world.
Oh, right. Nice.
That said, I hate teachers.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it probably has a mixture between having a chip on my shoulder, because like I feel like school in a large way, for what it's supposed to do, like it's getting people ready for the workplace, right? So that's a very Saskatchewan way to look at it. Well, I grew up in Saskatchewan. It's so in a lot of times it's convincing smart people that they're dumb and convincing dumb people that they're smart.
Like a world without education is like the worst world, right? Is not good. Right. Not good. So it's kind of like education. So I understand it's like it's not perfect. So I feel like it's, you know, school systems are usually a mix of like visionaries doing amazing things mixed in with people who kind of have an assimilation mindset, mixed in with people that just kind of like, there'll be thrown a couple people just kind of hate their job, hate their life. Thrown with some of the most passionate people in the world, some of the most kind people in the world. It's like it is such a mix, and of course, everything is like that, right? You know.
Well, I feel like they're trying that, like the product, if they were a factory, would be to make more workers. Like it's a factory, and so like if you,
I would challenge it a bit because I think it's very rare that you'd find a teacher that thought that way. Most teachers are thinking they want to create a better world and they want to create a kinder world and you know, so most teachers are like that. I know that definitely has always been my mentality, you know.
Yeah.
So like when you have that kid that's really hard or really difficult, and I'm going to like make sure every day I say something positive to that kid. And I make sure every day that like you say something that shows your acceptance, and I'm doing that because in my mind, I'm thinking that creates a better future. Like that kid's going to be better off because of that. I mean, I'm not everything to that kid like that. I'm just one of many influences throughout this kid's life, but that makes it a smidgen better, right? So, that's kind of why I like teaching, because the impact is so. So I'm always torn because like I love teaching for the impact, but then like I also know like I'm 38 and I'm not good at it yet. But I am good at creating, and so that's difficult for me to the thing that you're making money is the thing that you're not great at yet, and the thing that that you do on the side that you are really good at,
you can't make money
yet. So that's kind of but anyways,
I feel like I could sit and talk about this subject, and I just want to, before we move on from here, I want to say that because I feel so passionate about this subject, I realize how I sound, and it's like some kid that's like, fuck school, like, fuck this teacher, like, it's a program, man, and it's meant to program you. Look at the word program. Like, we're all supposed to be graham crackers. If you're not a perfect square, you're going to get chopped. You're like...
I mean, that's one of the difficulties, but like, in any system... That's a difficulty, right? But I mean, like, if you look at the difference, I don't like you're a bit younger than me, but when I was growing up, it was like, I didn't even know what racism was, because even though there was like a kid, the people were always like shitting on him because he was First Nations. But I didn't even know that was racism because everyone was just looking for anything that was different about you. And
right.
Like,
if you showed up to school with tight pants, you'd be Johnny Tight Pants.
Yeah, or if you had a
That's
zit.
how kids are.
Or if you had, and people were always dumping on me. So I didn't even know, I just was like, they're just picking something I didn't know, this is like a larger.
Like that's,
right.
That's what
but I mean,
doing.
like, I didn't understand, this has larger implications. I was like, they're just picking something arbitrary to shit on this kid about, just like they do with me, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I think that
because I was different though. There was like, there's something weird about him.
Yeah.
They were like, they couldn't like quite nail it down. They're like, he just like the way he talks and the way he's just always like, hey guys, you see that movie?
Fucking
like just and they're just like did like an 8-hour shift with their dad on the John Deere tractor. It's like it's so I definitely didn't. I grew up in rural Alberta. Like I didn't like. Out in the boondocks, government better not come on my property.
Man, I gotta move there.
That's kind of okay. So we should. I got another film question. So when editing the credits, so the full length film I just did, it's called Nolan Here Nor There.
It's called, say that one more time.
Nolan Here Nor There.
Okay.
So Nolan is the main character, and then Here Nor There.
Okay.
Is the thing.
I like the name.
Yeah, it's not bad. But anyway, so when I was editing, because I don't because there's some things I just like writing and writing characters and dialogue. I really enjoy that. But there's certain things I'm like, I don't know how to do this.
Right.
So actually I watched Paddleton and I was like, I don't know how to do opening credits. And so I just watched Paddleton and I basically like copied them and how they did their opening credits.
Right.
And then later, because Jeremy Ratzlaff, who
is another filmmaker in Moose Jaw.
Well, he's like, I did a rough edit and then he's like editing it and making it a little bit better because he's really good at editing.
Yeah. And
he just basically like changed the whole thing.
He's like, what are you
he was
doing?
Like, this is crap. So I was like, okay, maybe when you're like copy someone else, it's not going to be that great of a version.
Is it that kind of that you have to learn the rules before you break them? Like, is there some kind of weird thing that happened?
I don't really believe in that, but my question for you is like, because then you hear about people who they learned how to play jazz because they would listen to an album and then they'd copy it and they listen to an album. Do you, when you're learning to do creative things, do you copy people? How do you learn how to do new creative things? Like comedy, for instance. I
have a theory that like when you like, you can learn to learn. So if you like master baking pie,
Sure.
there's different things that come with, like, there's paying attention to the recipe, and there's like getting your taste palette like sharp, and like there's different things and that's kind of just like an odd thing that I picked, was baking a pie, or like dribbling a basketball and not looking at it. I think I have a theory that the more things that you learn, you become like a really great generalist.
Yeah.
And then there are people that are like a professionalist, like people that they're an expert at like one thing.
Sure.
And like I'm like somebody that's learned to play the guitar, and then somebody that's like shingled a bunch of roofs, and like I'm pretty good at picking things up, but I'm not that great at perfecting them.
Sure.
So when it comes to, what's your question one more time?
Well, how do you learn new creative things? Or do you? Or
a lot of times it's by necessity.
Or is it so natural you don't notice?
I'm just a natural, Dustin.
I mean, a natural progression. You know.
I think that like, obviously there's time spent. Like, what is it? Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hours.
Right.
So like when you start off anything, you're gonna suck doggy balls.
Sure.
But then the more you continue at it, you're gonna get better at it and better at it. It usually takes about 10,000 hours to become an expert at something.
Sure.
Right. And like me, a fail artist, something that I've tried 10 million things and failed them all, I've become an expert at failing. So if I'm ever
I've
gonna,
thought about that. I've thought about like, what if you learn
how to fail everything?
What if what you're learning is how to badly do something?
No, how to badly do everything. You know, I think there's.
But you're like a great songwriter. I mean, I know you're not in like a great cultural hub for it, but like
I can write a song.
Your songs are up there with like, especially when you went solo. Like, your songs are kind of up there with like some of the great songs.
Keep talking. No, okay.
Maybe no. But like so.
If there's anything that I can do, it's probably not shingling a roof. Like if somebody said, what are you an expert at? I would say I'm closest maybe at like writing a song. And I think that is that 10,000 hours. And it's because I've written 530 shitty songs.
Me too.
Like really, like just,
I've written hundreds and hundreds of songs.
Yeah.
I recently, I had an ex. Like
a letter X.
Like an ex-girlfriend. But we grew up together, and we were like best friends, and we were doing like kind of like that Joey Dawson thing where we were kind of like in love with each other. But
was that a Dawson's Creek reference?
Yeah.
Okay.
But no one wanted to say anything.
Yeah.
And then and then I was totally in love with her, and we didn't really bring it up once for 6 years. But we both knew, like, if I dated someone, she'd get mad. She'd like leave, and I'd be like, what's wrong? Nothing, you know. Or when she dated guys, I was always like, oh, I don't think he's good for you. Why not? And I give her some arbitrary reason, you know. She was actually she dated the guy that was in the most successful Christian ska band in Alberta.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to think of an Alberta ska band.
There was a couple. They were called Days Wage with a Z on the days.
There we go.
Days Wage. Yeah. Anyways,
they had brass.
What?
Did they have brass in it? Was it a ska band?
It was a ska band. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, but then when we broke up, we were kind of still talking for a long time, but then I won't go into it, but things got a little weird. And then I basically, when I got engaged to Carrie, I kind of just told her that we can't be friends anymore because I'm getting engaged to someone else, and it just wouldn't have been a good thing.
Yeah.
So
smart man.
So for reasons I won't go into, but like, but anyways, and then she hated me for a long time. I'd hear from people that she hated my guts. But then she sent me an email and said, I'm getting rid of all your old tapes. Because every time I'd write a song, I didn't have any recording equipment, but I'd record it on a tape. and then I give her the tape. So
Oh,
I
wow.
had like 50 albums, and she had them all.